Okay, today I'm going to be talking about ring-tailed lemurs, more scientifically known as lemur kata. Now, this is King Julian. This is super recognizable, super striking appearance. Most people know a ring-tailed lemur when they see one. So, let's get into it. Where do they fall into the tree of life? So, lemurs are going to be under the order of primates. Primates, monkeys, apes, humans, a lot of other species, but those are the most recognizable. We are primates. Exciting stuff. Within that order of primates, they're going to be in a suborder Strepsirini, curled nose. They're going to have more early primate characteristics. Then they're going to be going into their own superfamily Lemuroidea, which will then include five living families, which will have about 108 species. So, lemurs, they might look like monkeys. Don't call them a monkey, they're a lemur, and they're a totally unique branch of the primate family trees. Now, what do they eat? Ring-tailed lemurs eat leaves, flowers, and insects. They can also eat fruit, herbs, and small vertebrates. So they're definitely characterized as omnivores, and they're known to be pretty opportunistic with their diet as well. And the other interesting thing about ring-tailed lemurs, and actually all lemurs, is that they are found in Madagascar, and islands love to do fun things. Islands are so interesting. They always do their own little special things. And ring-tailed lemurs, they really live, in southern Madagascar, but in so many different environments, from deciduous forest to spiny bush to high altitude to cold altitude areas. They really thrive in so many different areas of Madagascar, which is super important for the environment as well. A lot of sources will classify them as diurnal, so they're going to be most active during the day, and night will be less active or not at all. I've seen a few sources describe them as cathemeral, but a majority will say diurnal. Now, there's so many things to talk about with ring-tailed lemurs and so hard to narrow down, but I really want to spend some time really going into the locomotion style of ring-tailed lemurs and what that really implies for the environment, for what they do, and sort of the bigger picture of it all. So, ring-tailed lemurs are going to be mostly quadrupedal, which means they're going to walk, run, and gallop on all fours, both on the ground, in the trees. Sources say even 65 to 70% of their travel time can happen on the ground. And that's really interesting for lemurs. Other lemurs are mainly arboreal, so it's super interesting to see a quadrupedal lemur that spends time on the ground. They can also move bipedally at times, which means they can move on two legs, just like us, but only for short distances. And they look a little silly when they do it. They have their long tail that shoots straight up so they can balance themselves. They're great climbers. They have big, strong legs that are great for leaping as well. Um, and they also have an interesting social dynamic where they live in troops. It almost reminds me of like those little meerkat troops that I've seen on nature documentaries. They can be a couple of individuals to like over 20. They're female dominated, which is also super interesting. They have a home range. The seasons and climate and weather can affect how they move. Um, but a really important thing is that in a day, a troop can travel up to 600 meters. And that's a pretty decent distance for a primate to travel, especially on the ground. Um, so what I want to get into based on how they move in this troop dynamic is how they're considered the gardeners of the forest. Why are ring-tailed lemurs gardeners of the forest? Well, they eat fruit, flowers, so many different things, and because they're moving on the ground, they're spreading all of that. They're eating, these seeds, they're having pollen on their noses, and then they're moving to a different distance, pooping there and essentially spreading pollen and seeds right into a new area. And this is super helpful for the environment. Just like a bee would go to a flower and spread pollen to another flower, lemurs do that for the forest in so many different ways. And unfortunately, they are considered endangered and are listed as endangered. And habitat destruction, overhunting, has all really affected that. Luckily, they're really popular to keep in captivity, they're easier to keep in captivity, but there's always more that can be done. So that was my sort of informational guide on lemurs, and I hope you learned something about specifically how they move, what they eat, and how their troop dynamic affects their ecological impact